Hello and welcome back. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving break. This will probably be the final video before I just do the last read through, but I spoke last time about potentially sending it out to a proofreader, and I've got a go-to proofreader that is absolutely amazing and awesome, so I recommend that you look for a proofreader for yourself. I'm going to give them a shout out here though really fast. I highly recommend Cindy at Proof Positive Papers. She has been awesome with everything I've sent her, and so just wanted to give a shout out. I'll probably put a link to her website in the information for this video when I post it. But yeah, find yourself a good proofreader. So once you've got everything else done and you're ready for just the final touches, making sure it's all cleaned up and ready to go, you can send it to a proofreader. Now, your proofreader should not just make the changes and send it back to you. They normally will do something like this, where they will add in comments or track what changes they made so that you can either accept or reject them. In some cases, I have rejected things, but it's usually based on I wanted a specific type of wording or I had a different emphasis. In most cases, my proofreader's been awesome, and so I haven't needed to. I've been able to go through and just double check and go, yeah, I agree with all that stuff. So I can go through and I can see where things have been added, where things have been deleted. Sometimes your proofreader will add in comments about, this might be better in a different way, or, whatever. But you can go through and check and see what's working, what's not, what changes were added, what weren't. For example, she caught this quotation mark that I had missed, which is great. And so it just helps clarify things and make sure that everything's cleaned up. So I can go through, and thankfully I didn't have a lot of major issues, major errors. Most of it was just minor changes throughout, little little bits and bobs that I missed, or capitalization where I had just been putting lowercase dad as a title. She uppercased it like dad, which is great. So it helped clarify a lot of the things that were still a little bit muddled in my mind. So this works wonderful for me. So when I deal with that, I can come over here to tracking under review. And I can go through and try and review the changes one at a time. So for example, I'm not tracking. Do this and I can accept and move on to the next one, and I can go through a change at a time. Thankfully, I'm good with everything. I'm going to accept all changes and stop tracking because, as I said, everything I saw was great. It was exactly where it needed to be. Now, with all of those changes in place, now that I've had my proofreader go through, I wanted to go through a little bit about how I approach formatting. The first thing is I just work in whatever the default format I get is, and I usually go for this type of formatting just because I'm used to it. So I'll just do the separated paragraph, single space, or a single line break between them, and then I have double space after every sentence, which is a carryover from when I was growing up and we were using typewriters. That's still part of the way I write. And rather than getting stuck on it, I just let it be part of my writing process, and then I fix it at the end. So here's how I approach that. First, I'm going to go and I will select everything. So I know you're not seeing the pop-ups for this, but I'm just going to edit, select all, or I can, left click and highlight everything. And I'm going to change my format to Times New Roman. Apparently it's not going to show up here for some reason. Make sure it's all 12-point font. So that works for me. I'm then going to make some slight changes up here. And for this, if I'm doing a lot of writing or I have a lot that I need to make changes for example, with my books, I will actually create styles. So I'll open up the style pane and I will create custom styles. So for example, here at this, or these top two, I'll actually grab all three of these, or yeah, just these two right here. I may do a new style where I give it a specific type of spacing or formatting. So I'll actually grab all three of these, including that space down there. I'll do a new style, and I'm going to adjust the paragraph. Oh, I just realized you cannot see that pop up. So let me pause and get that on a different window so that you're able to see what I'm actually doing. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Had to make sure I got that set up so you can actually see what I'm doing when I pop this up. But I'll go in and I can call this short story title or whatever else. I'm going to change what the format is. I'm going to go to paragraph here for another little pop-up. And for this, I'm just going to adjust the line spacing. And I'm just going to hit OK. So that way I've added in a new little thing right here, wherever I created that. All right, there it is, my short story title. So that gets me that space and a half that I'm looking for. And I could actually make custom things for each one. So I could, you know, make sure that this is also bolded and adjust that style, which I might if I'm doing something longer. In this case, I'm not going to, but these are also things that you can play with. I'm going to now make the puff the title. I may change that by the end. I'm still not quite sure because it can have other connotations. So it's something I still will try and make a decision of before I do the final read through. But for now, I'm just doing it all capitalized. So it's the same format as this, just they're both bolded and then this one's just capitalized. I'm going to come here to the first paragraph and I am going to create a new style for this as well. The reason I'm doing a separate style for the first paragraph rather than just doing a style for all the body is I don't want the first paragraph indented. So I will call this paragraph, or wait, let me do a short story paragraph 1. Oh, and I just realized that's going off screen, so let me make sure that's there. And I'm going to adjust this format. So select paragraph from that drop down. And what I'm going to do is I will leave that alone, but I'm going to give that also the 1.5 line spacing. Now this is technically the same as the title, but I'm just trying to show you how you can adjust this and make other changes. So I will select OK. Select OK again. So with this first paragraph, short story paragraph 1, that one's selected. There is a difference because of the formatting because the title was centered, but anyways, there's that. Now I will come down and select the rest. And I'm going to create another new style. I will call this short story underscore body paragraphs. And these ones, I am going to do a special first line I want indented by 0.5. I'm going to adjust that to 1.5 lines. And then I will select OK and OK. So I just created that new one. And now I will select that. And here we go. Now it's all put together. So there's a couple of problems that I have here that I need to get cleaned up. First, I am going to remove that because these should all be connected together. So I can go through all of these line breaks and remove those. Not a glamorous process, but it's part of the process. And so if you aren't sure if you've done it correctly, if you don't have it taken care of correctly, then it will be indented if it's just rolling over or something. So if you look at all of the places where there should be a new paragraph or a line break, it should be indented from this point on. so still going through. This changes the length of my story as well. Sorry, just something I'm kind of doing in silence very quickly. And then we'll go through and get rid of all the double spaces that are a problem. And then I'll remove excess spaces that usually end up at the end of paragraphs or in other places. And I'll show you how to find those. Don't worry, folks, I'm getting there. And so this may seem absurd, and many folks will probably wonder why I don't just write with this formatted from the beginning. It's, as I kind of was saying before, simply because it slows down my writing process when I do. If I write the way I'm comfortable, then the words flow much easier, the writing gets out, kind of like with that first draft. It wasn't about getting it perfected. It wasn't about doing cleanup. It was just getting it out. And so if there is something as simple as a formatting issue that holds you back or causes it to be difficult to write, then get rid of that problem. Make writing as easy for yourself as possible to get the information out, because the formatting can always happen later. All right, so now with this fully formatted with these new styles, I'm going to close that style pane. And now I will go through and start doing the checks. So if I just hit space twice when I search the document, and I'll hit this the drop down, and I'm going to list matches in the sidebar. Now I've got that double space selected, and you can see they're all over the place. It's weird how I got away with one paragraph here that I didn't have them. And I'm going to replace it with a single space. So it doesn't look like there's anything here, but there's actually two spaces and then a single space. And I will hit replace all. So there were 116 replacements. Believe me, on my books, there are many, many more. If there are still double spaces, that means I had something go wrong where I went space crazy. Let me double check again. Double space. Replace it with single space. So I'll replace all. So there was one left. So that must have had... Yeah. Sometimes that also happens if I have three spaces for some reason. Like I had a paragraph there I deleted and there was three spaces, and it fixes one of the double spaces but then leaves the other, which then you have the new single space and then the other single space that become one. But all the double spaces are now gone. However, now I'm going to go through and do a single space search. And the reason for this is it will highlight everything in yellow, and this is where I can just look at the end of my paragraphs, the end of my lines, and just double check that I don't have an extra space that is not there. So visually, won't make a difference at all, but this is just a personal pet peeve type thing. I want to make sure that there is that space that is necessary there, or not have the space at the end where it shouldn't be. Sorry. But have the spaces only where they are necessary. And so it's just a cleanliness thing. And so I'm just browsing through, looking at the end of each paragraph, or in some cases it's a line if it's dialogue, so it's just that line break, and making sure I don't have a yellow mark at the end. And if I don't, then this will be clean and good and ready to go. The other part that I would sometimes do is in the book format. Oh, let me delete this now. In book format, I would also have things like page numbers and stuff like that for my early manuscripts as well, just so that I know how many pages when I really like to print it out and then have it to mark up. But it helps me organize the pages, makes it a lot easier when I'm handing it off to other people for folks to keep track or give feedback like, hey, on page 32, that second paragraph down. Because this is a short story, I'm not going to worry about adding page numbers right now. That's something I could do. I also will do, watermarks for the book name or my name or whatever else. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it because if this does go someplace to be printed, it will probably be part of an anthology or a magazine or something like that. And in that case, they would deal with any kind of page formatting. And really, they just need the story. And if I make it simple for them, I have it Times New Roman. I've got it that space and a half or even double space, so they can come in and adjust the spacing if they need to. But this helps get it most of the way there. So now I've had it checked, proofread, have done the cleanup on it, have the formatting all ready to go. So now it's that nice formatting. I do still need to think about the title a little bit. And I've only been recording about 16 minutes. I've got a dishwasher going nuts in the background. So give me 1 second. I'm going to stop that. Oh, or never mind. It just finished its draining, so it's quieted on its own. But let's take a look and let's talk through the name process. A big way that I do this is I'll do an internet search on any ideas I come up with. So in this case, here, let me switch this back over. Hide that and do a transition. Okay. I can also do this, bring up the internet here and transition over. So if I get an idea for a name like The Puff, I can see that I'm going to not bother with that right now. Let's see, The Puff Story. I have other little bodies sneaking by right now. Okay, so I've got things like Puff the Magic Dragon, Puff Wonders of the Reef, which is a story about a pufferfish. So there are some other things that it relates to, but this is a fast way to find out if you have a problem. So let's say I've got a naked body running behind me. Let's say I've got a story like, this is about his parents getting in a fight. I should do Fight Club. Well, a quick check will very quickly help me find out, wait, that's a 1999 film. And what else could it be based off of? Okay, so Fight Club is very much taken. Another way to do this is think about it as a website. So if I do thepuff.com, okay, as you can see, this is something else, but it's already taken. So for marketing purposes, if I do a story called The Puff and I was going to turn it into a large book and a movie franchise and everything else, I've already got competition, thepuff.com. So that may change what I'm naming my book, or in this case, my short story. So I need to think about what else in the story could resonate. Sometimes it's a single line in the story. Sometimes it's the basic concept. So I could do something around zombies, but zombies has been done quite a lot. I could do something like the Cordyceps Wars, or actually it's a mouthful, but... And I'm thankful for spell check because I am not writing it. There's Cordyceps, Attack of the Killer Fungi, Cordyceps. So I could do the Cordyceps Wars, or Cordyceps Family or something like that. But that also doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue. Some titles are really cool long. Especially a lot of the new anime that's coming out recently. They've been opting for longer and longer titles for the shows. But I also really like having stuff that can be simple. The Puff was simple, it was straightforward. In this case, because it's a short story, I may still just run with that. But I just want to take you through this for a few more moments. So as I'm reading through the story, let me transition back here. I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this. There we go. So I'm looking through the story. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would resonate. It is about the Puff. It is about the zombie fungus that's taking over everything. And zombie fungus could still be the title. I'm just not quite sure yet. It isn't resonating with me as well as I'd like it to. If we're thinking about the message is about being understanding, being caring, being open, not shutting people down for different ideas or beliefs. Now, obviously, we want to protect children from actual violence or harm or, verbal, mental, other types of abuse. But in this case, that's not what's going on. In this case, it's just family has different beliefs and they want to share them, and there's some conflict here. So it could be something related to that. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we could do. We could call it Adam. We could do the title around Adam's name. Adam's zombies, Adam's cordyceps. The cicada that didn't die. There's quite a few different ways we could go. Solomon the zombie. There you go. I'm just browsing through, seeing if there's anything else that really resonates. Okay, so I had another thought pop into mind, and this one I already know is done. Hey, what if I do Spore? Well, we've got Spore, the game, and so that one is going to be a little bit more difficult. It's simple, it's straightforward, it kind of gets to the heart of, these thoughts or ideas. Zombie concepts. So there's zombie writing prompts for stories. Apparently zombies are fairly popular. Oh, concepts, not programs. Why is that? Let me put this in quotes. Yeah, let me get this moved over. There we go. Zombie concepts archives. Just for fun. Can also, okay, so that one doesn't exist yet. But it's also a little too abstract for this story. Here's another one. Maybe a combination. Adam's zombies. Adam's zombie detail spray. Well, there we go. Because then I'm identifying it to the main character. I'm identifying kind of what's going on with it. And it helps make a connection. We have Adam zombie here, so that can become something that is a conflict. Adam's zombie or zombies.com. Nope, no website for that, so that would be available. That's a possibility. Zombie puff. Or the zombie puffs. Apparently it's a candy, Inferno candy. Well, there we go. Or zombie Powerpuff Girls. This is part of what goes into the naming process. Usually I will sit down and just write lists and lists of names. Sometimes names come fluid and it hits and it just feels right. sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. I warned about this in the first couple of videos, but usually when I've had a placeholder name for a while that's felt good, I want to keep it unless there's a really good reason not to. In this case, while I could go to something else, I still really like the puff. There is a problem with there is some other connotations that could happen with it. But once somebody reads the story, especially because this is a short story, this will make sense and it will work. And on the bright side, when short stories do go into films or larger things, sometimes their names get changed. Actually, even full books I've seen where they've changed the title for movies or other stuff. So if the story gets used somewhere else or gets expanded, then we can worry about a name change. In this case, I'm going to leave it with what it is. I'm happy with the title. It may have some conflict, it may have some other issues, but I'm going to go with it for now. But that's part of the process for looking at names, is I usually do all these checks to see what else I'm going to find. Sorry, one second, I've got to... As soon as I say I'm going to pause it and go stop the dishwasher, then it gets past whatever draining phase it's in. All right, so that's the story. Hopefully you've been enjoying this series as I've gone through and written this, updated it, made changes. I'm happy with it. I think it's a really solid little story. And so I'll call this good. I'm going to do one more recording, and I'm just going to do a standalone read through in that recording. If you do have any questions, if you've enjoyed this at all, please comment down in the in the comments sections, and I'll try and respond to it. Other than that, if you've enjoyed any of this, if you found this beneficial and you think others might, please like, share, and subscribe. So thank you very much. Take care. Bye.